Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Rebecca Edwards, and I'm very proud to be the Manager and Principal Lawyer at Seniors Rights Victoria. A very warm welcome to you all here today for this 2022 Seniors Rights Stir a Cuppa event to recognise World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. After the last couple of years, it's a real pleasure and thrill to see so many of you here in person, and also for me not to have to worry about whether I'm on mute or not. However, in recognition of our new ways of operating, we are live streaming our event also on our Facebook page, and a big shout out to some groups. I know we've got Bendigo Health, we've got a group from U3A in the Surf Coast Shire, and to all the rest of you who are also streaming live and having your cuppas. There's quite a few special guests that you'll be introduced to throughout the afternoon. I do want to say a special introduction to my lovely mum Helen over here and my son Archer, who I consider the most special guests for the day. It's more special than you, Gerard, even.
One's got to know one's place.
Just as a matter of housekeeping, we do have toilets down the back. If you just keep following that hallway down, you'll hit them. And please feel free to grab a cuppa at any point if you need a refill or a bit of afternoon tea. So we're going to start the proceedings today with a welcome from Wurundjeri Elder Perry Wandin. Thank you, Perry.
Thanks, Rebecca. You've stolen all my limelight, because that's what I usually say at the end. So that doesn't matter. It's easy to look at. It's in Wurrung language and the English is underneath. Good afternoon. My name's Perry Wandin. I'm Wurundjeri Wurrung Elder and proud to be here. Firstly, I'd like to pay respects to all my ancestors, elders both past, present, and the next generation coming through, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as well. With my story, I've been an elder now possibly for 15 years, and my father passed away, and which I always put in. He was our last Narangita, meaning head man for Wurundjeri, and the first Aboriginal man to play for that mighty team, St Kilda, back in 1952-53. So, and he come home after in that time and became the youngest coach in the Yarra Valley, which I live in Hillsville. So, beautiful country up there. So, hello to everyone all around, wherever you are streaming from. But this is Wurundjeri Wurrung country, and very proud to say that. As I was saying, my father being the last Narangita, that was passed down through the line. And for those who remember there a fortnight ago, we were very, very lucky. We got William Barrick's painting back, which was at auction in New York. We won the bidding for that. And I was just talking to the Minister of Aboriginal Affairs just before, and it was good to see that the government come over and handed us $500,000, and we were shocked because they've sort of done a backflip on us when they took give it to someone else, half our land. Anyway, that's another story. So, but as I was saying, William Barrick himself was such a leader, and we know, and definitely going to be a 6 metre bronze statue of him put along the Beerung, which is the Yarra River, sometime this year. So, and which William Barrick is my great uncle too. So he got it handed down from Simon Wonga, and when they all went to Corranderk Mission, and like I said, out that beautiful place in Hillsville up there in the Yarra Valley. So if you ever go to the Hillsville Sanctuary, that was once part of Corranderk Mission. So it's all 8,000 acres around that area, and it's great because we hopefully, as on the title, it's Wandoon Estate, and that's how our name was officially, WANDOON, and today it's WANDIN for, make it easily for the English, I think it was. The town Wandin and the Yarra Valley was named after my great-grandfather, so that's another good reason why I come up to the valley. It's a beautiful place. You'll love it all. Great to sit down and have a sip of cuppa. Now, I love this. You can go up there anywhere and everyone will bang on anyone's door and they'll give you a cup of tea, no problems. Because the people are very friendly up there. We used to say if you were there for 30 years, you just got to know anybody. But nowadays, everybody's moved sort of on. A lot of people have gone to Queensland, but you come up to Hillsville now and we wouldn't know hardly anyone. It's just changed that much, the culture of everything. But as I was getting back to William Barrick, when he did pass away, he passed it on to Robert Wandoon. And when he passed away in 1915, a very young man, because all those people back in the mission days were slowly, genocide was happening to them with the young children, and especially the oldies. But, and it was sad because we were down to 30 people before everyone was moved out of Melbourne because of cholera and the common cold. And I'm proud enough to say that my mother's side, maybe I shouldn't, she's English and her name was Olive Potter. I'll give you one guess, old Harry was my grandfather. So, and as I was saying, I'm proud of both sides of my family, but to hear the stories with Corranderk, and when 1924 Corranderk mission was shut down, most of our family went down to Lake Tyes, and they're all in that Gippsland area down there with the Gunai mob. So they're all married in, and they're not only, they're everywhere now. So, and it's good because I love going down there to just catch up with everybody, because we thought we didn't have anyone down there and they thought we were all gone as well. So it's a good story, and it's easy to catch up, have a cup of tea. Well, we'd probably have a few sherbets, but it's all the same thing. Get in and talk to your family and find out how many there is. When my father became Narangita, it was back in I suppose in the late 80s, and we've been going as a corporation since 1986, and we tended to find that William Barrick, for what he did, actually got most of the other missions to listen, because it was getting newspaper reports and went so on to that, so everyone was following that lead. But today, as I said, my father was our last, and it'll probably be a long time before we get another one, because there's not really anyone to really stand up and to be recognised. But that's another story. I hope you've enjoyed today. I do thank you for listening to part of my story, because we've all got different ones, and it's all about family and connection. So, Wamanjinka, Yemen Kundibik, Wurundjeri Wurrung Balik, and as it reads, welcome to the land of Wurundjeri people, and I do welcome you. I hope you have a great day, and thank you to listen to my story.
Thank you, Perry. That was great. So, I said earlier that I was proud to be part of Seniors Rights Victoria. Seniors Rights, or as we know it, SRV, it's a specialist statewide community legal centre which, in my humble opinion, punches well above its weight. With our small but extremely dedicated and hard-working staff, many of whom are here today, which is great to see, we managed to provide a helpline that receives more than 3,500 calls per year from older people, from families, friends and concerned others, and provides secondary consults to professionals from other fields who are looking for support for their older clients. We provide a unique integrated legal and advocacy response where lawyers and social workers together provide wraparound support for older clients, both at the initial advice stage and as ongoing casework when required. We have a strong community and professional education program, And we provide leadership and input into the elder abuse sector as a whole via our involvement in advisory and working groups, submissions, comms and media. And SRV, it's a specialist because we deal with only elder abuse. I say only, but those of you who have experience with elder abuse know that it comes in many different forms and with many different complexities. Elder abuse is any act that causes harm or distress to an older person that occurs in a relationship of trust. There are lots of different types of elder abuse. It can be physical, psychological or emotional, financial, sexual or involve mistreatment or neglect. While there are commonalities between elder abuse situations, each scenario is unique and often requires a tailored response. In our experience, some cases require little actual intervention, with the older person empowered to deal with the situation themselves once they know their rights, once they know that they're not alone in experiencing such behaviour, when they know that there is help available, someone to talk to. Other cases require years of complex work to ensure the safety of the older person and then fight for restitution, if that is possible. So World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. It's an international day officially recognised by the United Nations General Assembly in 2011. And one of the purposes of WEAAD is to provide an opportunity for communities around the world to promote a better understanding of abuse and neglect of older people by raising awareness of elder abuse. And in Australia, we've been lucky enough to have a government-funded research into the prevalence of elder abuse, with the results of the National Prevalence Study released just before Christmas last year. The study done by the Australian Institute of Family Studies showed that 1 in 6, or 15%, of older Australians reported that they had experienced abuse in the 12 months prior to being surveyed. Alarmingly, only about 1/3 of those sought third-party help to respond to the abuse. Some of the other key findings from that study were that while family and friends are the most common source of support for older people who experience abuse, perpetrators of elder abuse are unfortunately also often family members, mostly adult children. Gender is not a significant predictor of either experiencing elder abuse or being a perpetrator of elder abuse when you compare it to intimate partner family violence. So women are only very slightly more likely to experience elder abuse, and men are only very slightly more likely to be a perpetrator of elder abuse. Higher levels of social contact with family and friends were associated with a lower prevalence of elder abuse. So the more face-to-face contact with your family or friends meant that you were less likely to be abused. So events like this one, where you get a chance to come out and have a cuppa, are good both for your well-being but also for your chance of elder abuse. One of the key drivers of elder abuse is thought to be ageism. So the narrative about physical and mental decline associated with ageing is, as we know, deeply embedded in our culture. And in lots of ways, both subtly and not so subtly, older adults are marginalised and dismissed in our society. Older people are often stereotyped as physically frail and losing capacity, and we see it in statements that we make, like someone's over the hill or having a senior moment or must be losing it. Ageism is starkly obvious in employment discrimination in Australia, and there are other examples that have been evidenced by the Royal Commission into Aged Care Quality and Safety. And ageism ignores the rights of older people by not including them in decision making. This can be seen when we automatically talk louder or in simplistic terms to an older person, or we talk about that person in front of them instead of addressing them directly. And ageism blinds us to the benefits and strengths of ageing and increases our fears of growing older. It creates a culture that ignores and tolerates elder abuse and allows the abuse of older adults to continue unabated. Individuals who commit abuse often rely on ageist assumptions and beliefs to justify their behaviour, or they assume that older adults have dementia, don't understand, can't report what's happening to them. Instead of seeing older adults as fully human, they're viewed as disposable or inconvenient. So you might ask, in the context of this fairly depressing nature of ageism and elder abuse, why are we celebrating World Elder Abuse Awareness Day? Well, of course, we're not celebrating it, but we're rather recognising it. We are acknowledging the significance of elder abuse as a public health and human rights issue. By marking and recognising the 15th of June each year, we can use this observance as a call to action for individuals and organisations and communities, and each of you, to raise awareness about elder abuse and neglect and exploitation. So here at Seniors Rights Victoria, we see World Elder Abuse Awareness Day as a chance to bring people together. We want them together in a relaxed environment where they can stir their cuppa and have conversations about ageing. We want people to act locally by using personal stories to challenge attitudes about ageing and to raise the visibility of older people and their contributions to their families, communities and the wider society. And we hope that some of the conversations that you have today will improve for all of us our ability to confront our own attitudes about ageing. As part of World Elder Abuse Awareness Day this year, Seniors Rights Victoria is also releasing a new resource, especially for grandparents, providing information on the importance of grandparents in family life and offering ways in which challenges faced by grandparents can hopefully be resolved. And to release that resource, I'd now like to introduce Jared Mansour. To probably most of you here today, Jared really needs no introduction. He's a highly respected and passionate advocate for the needs of older people with over 30 years of leadership experience in the aged and wider community services sector. He was appointed as the first ever Commissioner for Senior Victorians, and his role has been expanded to include acting as an ambassador for elder abuse prevention. His current priorities include isolation and loneliness of older people, what it means to age well, and prevention and response to elder abuse. Welcome, Jared. Thank you.
Big step. I've got that. Yeah. Thanks, Rebecca, for that lovely introduction. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands that we're meeting on today. And the many different lands that those that are joining us online today. Pay my respects to their elders past and present and any other Aboriginal senior Victorians who might be with us today or any age group at all. My role, for those that maybe don't know what I do, I have really one key word that drives everything that I do. It's really good if you can capture your entire job in one word. And that one word is voice. My job is to give a voice to people that are aged over 60, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders aged over 50, about what it means to grow older. The role that I've got came out of a parliamentary inquiry back in 2011 and 12. And what a lot of senior Victorians said to the Parliament, our Victorian Parliament, they said that as we get older, we often feel that we become invisible to the community in which we live. And they suggested that one way that that could be addressed is having a dedicated role that works with government as an independent voice to provide a voice on behalf of senior Victorians. And that's essentially my job. I get a chance to travel Victoria, to listen and talk with lots and lots of senior Victorians and understand the things that are important to them and then provide that advice to government. So in the last couple of years, dealing with the pandemic has been a critical issue, a lot of liaison with the public health team, dealing with specific issues like how can we have a safe and appropriate passage for family members to visit their loved ones living in residential aged care. So how do we make sure that on the one hand we keep them safe, on the other hand we keep them connected to our community. And so I've done a lot of work in that space. I work on a key issue about what does it mean to age well, and so I've recently published a report about that. And as Rebecca mentioned, one of the key issues that I know that I've focused on always since I've been in this role is the impact of isolation and loneliness. But today I've got a very pleasurable job, which is to officially launch the wonderful new help sheet that SRV puts together. And Rebecca, can I congratulate you and the team for the work that you do, Gary and everybody else that's here from Seniors Rights Victoria. One of the first things, and Tina of course, leadership of CODA, one of the first things that I did when I started in this role some 8 years ago was have an opportunity to tour the CODA offices and listen to the frontline advocates and lawyers that work at Seniors Rights Victoria, and they helped me understand something that I never understood. I thought, as someone that had worked around the sector for quite some time in running aged care associations and before that other peak bodies, I thought I had a pretty good understanding of the experiences of senior Victorians, how misled I was. The fact that I could be briefed by organisations like SRV about the scourge of elder abuse. So today I wanted to open my comments by sharing with you some of my experience as a grandparent. One of the things that I think for those of us that are fortunate enough to have our grandchildren is how much they mean to us. And so before I launch the brochure and refer to some of the tips in it, I'd like to make some comments about what it means for me as being a grandparent and share a few of the insights into that. Because I know that my experiences will be reflected by many people that have the opportunity to be a grandparent. In this role, I'm very fortunate. I work 3.5 days a week. So on a Monday afternoon, it's Pa time. My grandkids call me Pa. So I pick one of them up from kindergarten, I pick the other one up from school, and they come to my house. Now, as my son and daughter-in-law learnt fairly early on, when the grandchildren come to my house, it's Pa's rules. And there have been some interesting discussions between my children, my son and my daughter-in-law and myself, where they've helped educate me about their parenting style, and that was wonderful. But I said, look, I've got a different role. You know, your role is to be the parents. My job is to be the grandparent. And I'm not going to say it's anything goes, but it probably isn't much off anything goes. But one of the things that happens, and you know, you get into a chance to spend a bit of time. I think one of the things I did learn before I became a grandparent, listening to senior Victorians, they'd often say to me, one of the real positives about getting older is you can actually have a bit of time to put yourself first. And so I heard that and I had a chance to put that into practice. And so, of course, the thing that I have with my grandchildren is I have time. I have time to spend with them, play with them, talk to them, listen to them about their day. I always start my conversation with my granddaughter. I pick her up first and I say, so tell me, what's one thing you've learnt today? And she says to me, nothing, Pa. So with that starting point, and I also, I house sit my daughter's little King Charles Cavalier. So when I go to the school, I've got the little King Charles Cavalier with me, and that's the starting point of that whole experience, as my granddaughter gives a big hug to the King Charles Cavalier, and off we go together to pick up my grandson. So one of the things that I learnt early on, and I was never very good at this at all, is art. Now, you sort of say to yourself, well, what's something you might like your grandkids to remember you by? And other than the fact that they can pretty much do anything they want, what's something else that they might want to remember? And so I spend time with them, and we spend time doing a bit of art and craft and talking about the things that interest them. So I wanted to share with you a couple of little bits of their art that they share with me. So Henry's the younger one. So Henry's drawn me recently a dinosaur. So dinosaurs are very much in our language at the moment, and a very colourful dinosaur. And he's like a lot of younger kids. He's got his name going the wrong way. And so Henry and I, as you could imagine, what do we have a lot of conversation about? Dinosaurs. You nailed it in one. And my granddaughter is a little bit older and a little bit more sophisticated in her messaging, so she's put the date on this one for me. So this was the 21st of May, 22. She's coloured in a whole lot of things. Why do you think she might have picked a whole lot of ice creams to... So after I have a chance to play with my children, my grandchildren, they stay around for dinner. And so my son and my daughter-in-law come, and after dinner, if they do the right thing, guess what they might have? And so my granddaughter's captivated that idea that ice creams and Pa's house go hand in hand. And so she's got a little message for me to remember. And she says, "To Pa, I love you 5,000 much, and I hope you like my picture. Love, Eloise." So that's what she's told me here. So the fact that we have food, one of the things that's important to me is variety of food. So I try to serve up a whole variety of food. It tends not to go that well a lot of the time, so we've got limitations on young kids. So this is to Pa and my daughter Kaz, to Pa and Kaz. And so we've got today a whole lot of food that we've trialled over it. So we've got some sushi, we've got some rissoles, we've had quiche, spaghetti, pizza. So there's a random sample of the really good quality healthy food I tried to serve up. Thank you guys for making the Mansell family lunch and dinner. We're going to make you guys some dinner and lunch one day. So that's her commitment to do that with me. And the final one was one of the most recent ones. So we had a chance recently to go to the aquarium. So during the school holidays, we went into the aquarium, went in by public transport and had some time to look around. And so when we came to do a bit of art recently, the penguins got a bit of a feature. So we've got some lovely colouring in for the penguins. And so what's her message today? To Pa, I hope you like my colouring in picture. I love you 70,000 bits. So I've gone up in value. I was 5,000. After the aquarium, I've gone to 70,000 bits. Love from Eloise. So look, I wanted to share with you that in a bit of a fun way because, of course, that's the wonderful life experience that I have as a grandparent. Imagine if for some reasons totally outside my control, you lost that opportunity to have those connections. And that what happened, and this happens I know to a number of senior Victorians, I find that in my conversations, I'm often at forums like this, I have a chance to talk and listen to senior Victorians about their life experiences. But when they're going to talk to me about the really tough challenges like their own experience of abuse, not surprisingly, they tend to do that one-on-one. They'll wait around after the gathering has maybe finished a bit and over a cup of coffee they'll say, "Oh, Gerard, could I have a little bit of a chat with you?" And I was delighted when Seniors Rights Victoria named the issue of grandparents because it's something that sat there as a subtext with me for a long period of time. It's one of the hardest stories I had to listen to, is when an older person would say to me that their adult children, very much in terms of an abuse approach, trying to exercise control and influence, would threaten or actually withdraw the ability of them to see their own grandchildren. And of course, I understood that at a level, but as you'd appreciate, over time, as I've had a chance to build my own relationship with my own grandchildren, you can see how that's elevated in strength. And I can understand the pain and anguish that that might mean for senior Victorians that are living that today. And there are. As I'm standing here today, there are many people across Victoria that are dealing with this challenge within their family. And so in that context, I'm delighted this has been named. We don't talk about it a lot, do we? We don't talk about elder abuse itself a lot, but we don't talk that much about the experience of grandchildren. And I think in the bulletin, and I'd really urge you to take it away, and those that are joining us online through the stream, to actually take some time to read it and to absorb it. There's some really good tips and a couple of the ones that I'll point out to you today about the things that we can do. And I think one of the first ones and the starting point is to be aware that we've got rights. No matter what age we are, no matter what point we are in our life journey, no matter where we live, our cultural background, no matter our gender identity. We all have rights, and we have a right to be respected and treated with respect. And I think that's the starting point for us in any of our considerations about how we might approach abuse in any form, but let alone abuse of this kind. So it's very subversive, isn't it? It's a very control type mechanism to try to say to somebody who is dear to us that something is so important, so it could be a financial imperative that, and these are some of the examples of cases that have come to me, an older person who has some assets and their adult children would like to access those assets earlier than what that older person might want to pass on to them. And then they use the threat of the withdrawal of access to the grandchildren as a means to try to perpetrate that abuse. And so that's why, for me, it's a very insidious form of abuse. It's a way to try to, through the heartstrings and tackling something that goes to the heart of love and respect. There are pathways that are available, and I think one of the most important ones is to seek advice. Go to an organisation like Seniors Rights Victoria and find out what your rights are, what are your opportunities. Sometimes, just with informal conversations, these issues can be resolved. I think naming them in a family context is really important. Naming them in the community is really important. Sometimes it could be pathways like mediation or counselling. You know, that maybe by getting all the parties together with an independent person, there is an opportunity to resolve those. And I've heard great stories in that way from Better Place, one of the organisations, or Relationships Australia, about how that active mediation has been able to actually get to some point of resolution. But unfortunately, that doesn't always happen. And it may be that more specific pathways, like legal pathways, need to be considered and opened up. I think one of the things that is most challenging for anybody that lives this type of experience, and I know many older people have shared this with me, the sense of embarrassment that they feel in here, in the heart, within them, and somehow that it's their fault. And that's often the starting point that an older person will come up to me, and when they're sharing their stories, they'll often have a question, which is, sadly to me, it's the wrong question. But the question will be, what have I done wrong? Instead of the question being the proper question, why are they perpetrating this abuse against me? And so I think the importance of this resource for us is it's a reminder to us that there are some quite specific forms of abuse that can be extremely difficult to deal with. And so, of course, reaching out to the people that are close in our circle. One of the real positives that I've learned in my role is that for most of us, we have a small group of really trusted people in our lives, don't we? It might be one of our other children, it might be someone in our neighbourhood, it might be a family, you know, a sibling to us, it might be a relative. So for most of us, there will be some really significant trusted people in our lives where we feel we can have an open conversation and do some disclosure. So that can often be the starting point. Or doing it with a professional, doing it with a GP. It doesn't really matter where the disclosure occurs, but that's, I think, the first step to resolution. To acknowledge there's a problem. I don't want to really live with this problem. I would like to be able to see and have that relationship with my grandchildren, to have a chance to go from 5,000 bits to 70,000 bits to something else that our grandchildren are going to tell us as they grow older and share their love with us. So I think that disclosure is a really important part of the pathway, and finding some language around that, and to recognise that this is not normal. This is not something that we should have to be expected to live with, and it is something that for all of us, if we're in that situation, it would be extremely difficult for us in terms of disclosure. So just in summary, I think there are some really good tips on the last page of the resource here about, notwithstanding the fact that we're living with this, try to find ways to maintain a connection in your own terms. I think there was a really important part when I got to the resource. I thought, yeah, this is really clever, because it's not just saying to an older person, oh, let's hope we can find a new way for you, and that's absolutely critical. But here are some practical things you can actually do now to try to open up the pathways. And there's some great suggestions about, let's see if there is an opportunity either directly or with a third party to talk to the parents themselves. Think about ways that you could send cards or other gestures or gifts so that your grandchildren know that you're still a critical part of their lives. I think that there's a good practical tip here about not running down your parents to your grandchildren. I think to try to stay at that higher level is a really good suggestion. And if it's safe, try to maintain contact in whatever way you can. And try not, in your own mind, to accept that drifting away is the inevitable consequence. I think that's one of the things that I really liked about the help sheet. It was a sense of hope. That there are success stories, there are people that have been in this situation, that have lived through the challenges that I'm talking about and have been able to come out the other end and re-establish that relationship with their grandchildren. So I really commend Seniors Rights Victoria and each of you to take a few moments to read the facts, the help sheet. But I think the final message that I'd like to leave with you before we move on to the panel is that I think one of the most critical things is continuing to have the conversations and the connections. I think the most challenging situation for all of us in life, no matter what the challenge is that we feel isolated and we feel that there's not pathways and that there's not a support network available to us. And that's not the case. We've got organisations like Seniors Rights Victoria, many other support organisations across the state who can be there as a pathway, maintaining the contacts with our friends, our children, our family networks. If things get very critical and there is a need to intervene, of course in an emergency you'd never hesitate to ring Victoria Police. I think we need to always understand that we're approaching this from a rights paradigm. And if there is something very significant, one of the things that I think's happened in Victoria since the Royal Commission, Family Violence Royal Commission, and the response of our state government, is we don't walk past family violence. Where there are really critical issues that require an intervention, we never forget that if there's an emergency, we call Victoria Police and we get their involvement. And so my clear message to you all today is maintain those connections. Let's look at the help sheet. Let's work together as a community to make sure that this is one of the next steps in the journey to make sure that our long-term objective is to eradicate abuse to people of all ages, no matter who they are, and elder abuse being part of that. Thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts with you today. So now we have an opportunity to bring up a panel. So can I please invite Marlene, Joe and Rena to join me? Just waiting for Rena to come up. So Donna's coming up as well.
Yes, and just encourage people to get a cup of tea because there's still lots of cup of tea.
Oh, okay. So just a reminder to you all, we're going to have the panel in a second, but feel free to go and top up your cup of tea, your cuppa, or grab some refreshments. If I was you, make sure nothing stays on the table. It's a great investment by SRV, but don't leave it here, leave it in your stomach when you go.
While people are doing that, can I get a smile, please? Can I get a...
We're going to take a photo there, is that okay?
Thank you.
Really, thank you very much. Sorry that I've been late.
No problem.
You're saying that
We waited for you. When you're finished, if you could return to your seats, that would be fantastic. So I'm delighted to move to a different level, where I'm going to introduce, so I'll get these lovely guests up here to introduce themselves. So we're going to have a bit of a conversation. I've got a few questions. Fortunately, there's no surprises. They've got the questions in advance. So, but I'm just firstly going to start by asking Marlene, Joe, Raina and Adonis to introduce themselves. So starting with you, Marlene.
Hello everyone, it is a delight to be here. Thank you very much. My name is Marlene Krasovitsky and I'm the Director and Co-Chair of Every Age Counts, which is a national coalition and grassroots movement to end ageism.
Hello everyone, my name is Joe Caruso. I'm a retired executive, been involved in residential and retirement living in aged care for 10 years. Prior to that was in the health system. It's a great honour and a privilege for me to be part of the question time here today, so thank you for the invitation. I also volunteer for Seniors Rights Victoria and go around to present on elder abuse as well. So thank you for allowing me to be here.
Hello, my name is Rena Frangiudaki. I don't know where I am, so I'm a person that since the first day that I arrived in Australia, I'm involved with people in the Greek community, and not only the Greek community. I know a lot of things about problems in the elderly, and not only elderly. I'm very grateful that I've been to Australia, although I never thought I will come. I will leave my country, but when I arrived here, I realized that those people that they came from their countries, I used to believe that the big fighters in 1921, it was those people that they were fighting for their country. When I arrived here and I saw so many people coming to so far to make a better living for them and the people in their country, I felt that these are the heroes. I never wanted to stay forever, but I realized that these people need to teach us and to be helped from us. So I'm very grateful that I am 55 years here in Australia, and I've seen so much, and I gave so much, but I take a lot of love from people from all over the country. Thank you very much for inviting me. I will use Andonis for some translation, because since 2000, I became on 3XY a journalist in every aspect of media. And since then, I gave my word to people and to young people in the Greek community that will always speak Greek, so they will learn the second language. So I apologize for this, but Andonis is here to help me because I'm getting older.
I think it's time for me to go now. Rena asked me to support her and be part of the things she wants to say. So I work for Pronia, a Greek welfare organization, and I have the pleasure to work with Rena for at least the last 20 years, I remember 2003, on a lot of topics, and we work with aging population, the Greek community in Melbourne predominantly, and we've done a lot of work in this area. So I'm very happy to be here today in this very special day. The idea was that Rena will speak and I will sort of endeavor to bring this message to you in English, but I don't think she needs me.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So we're going to start with Marlene. One of the things, Marlene, that I've learnt in my role, when I did some consultations recently about the challenges of growing older, I asked people to give me a word that represented the challenge, and interestingly, the most common word they came up with was the word invisible. That was the challenge word that they came up with. You've been a key driver and leader in the Every Age Counts campaign, and visibility of older people is one of the things you talk about in terms of ageism. So can you give us some insights into the practical steps that we as a community can take to be more visible and challenge the concepts of ageism?
Thank you, Gerard. Very happy to. Being visible is a really powerful way of batting back all those negative stereotypes and assumptions people are making about you based on your age. So the more we can stay engaged and connected and visible in the community and within our family connections and so on, the more we can start to chip away at all those negative stereotypes about being older and towards older people. So in terms of practical tips, one of the underpinnings that we've heard Rebecca talk about so articulately today, and Gerard, is that ageism is an underpinning of elder abuse. So one of the things that we can do, all of us, is that when we spot ageism, is to call it out, to know it and to name it. And believe me, you'll see it all around you. You'll see it in the birthday cards that you receive. Remember all those cards you get likening you to a dinosaur or being over the hill or being frail or forgetful? You'll see it in the language people use that refer to you as a cranky old man or a sweet old dear or whatever it is that patronises you. You'll hear it when people talk down to you, the sing-song voice, all of that which is diminishing you and infantilising you. And you'll also see it when you're overlooked, when your needs are overlooked, when your wishes are overlooked. So it's a very powerful way to call out these ageist assumptions, but not in a confrontational way. We don't want to lose people on this journey. Ageism is so deeply embedded. We need everyone to be part of this journey. So it's not about confronting people or causing conflict, but it is about saying what your personal experience of that has been. So for instance, if I'm in a shop, if somebody has ignored you, just to say, look, I'm really hurt by the way you served that other person who came in after me and treated me as if I was invisible. I feel hurt, and I think you did that just because I'm older. So not in a confronting way. Same goes for jokes. When you hear those ageist jokes, don't get caught up in a debate about what humour is the right sort of humour, or, you know, that you're being sensitive and you can't take a joke. Just talk about the way the joke made you feel personally and how you think it might make other people feel. And tell your story. Tell your story loud and proud in any context that you can, so that you do remain visible.
Thanks very much, Marlene. So, Joe, you've got the R word now, the retired word, and like so many, I'm sure Joe is going to tell us in a minute that he's never been so busy, people who've moved to retirement. You remain very active in the community. Could you tell us, Joe, why you decide to do certain things? So where have you invested your energy, and why is it important to you now that you're in retirement?
Thank you for the question, Gerard. I think for me, it's about staying connected in the community when you are retired. It's really important that you maintain your connections. I'm involved in a lot of community work back in my hometown in Wangaratta, northeast Victoria. And I've taken that opportunity to share my skills and my knowledge in the community, because for me it's about trying to leave a legacy in your community. I have received a tremendous amount of support in my time with my family growing up in the community. I felt it really important for me to be able to impart my skills and my knowledge back so that we can develop our community and share those opportunities as we go forward. It's important that we take that opportunity to be able to share your skills and knowledge. I'm involved with Seniors Rights Victoria. As I said in my opening, I take that opportunity because I was in my last career, I was involved in residential and retirement living as an executive officer managing a facility in my hometown. We had some 381 residents. It was a fairly big organisation, a non-for-profit. And during that time, I observed abuses that residents were encountering that were unrelated to the way we were caring for our residents, from family, from friends, from grandchildren. It really saddened us as staff, and for me particularly, because growing up in my hometown of Wangaratta, I knew 99% of my residents. And so it was pretty heart-wrenching for me to see that happening in such an organisation when people are in the prime of their time, and they should be loved and cared for in that time, rather than seeing them being abused. So I took this opportunity. I read an article in The Senior, which I'm a great advocate of, that comes out published by COTA every month, about Seniors' Rights Victoria, and I placed a call with Gary actually and said, are you looking for any volunteers in terms of assisting in getting the word out to the community? And as it's been stated today, it's important to get that voice out, to get people to understand that there's the opportunity for someone that can help you, that can listen to your issues. And so the more we empower our people with knowledge, the greater understanding we're going to have in terms of how to deal with a situation when you're encountered in that time. So that's what I do. I mean, as I said, involved with many organisations, and I don't want to list them off, but I do enjoy my time, and I guess my greatest precious time is with my family. I'm really enjoy that opportunity. Unfortunately, I live 245 kilometres away from all of my children and grandchildren, so it's not a frequent time. As Jared has explained, he gets to see his children every week. I get to see mine on special occasions, and so we really value that opportunity to be able to be with family and to support them in any way possible.
Thanks very much, Joe. So Raina, and maybe Adonis if we need you, we'll see. I don't know, Adonis, to be perfectly honest, whether we will, but Raina, you arrived in Australia in the 60s, you told us, and you've been very proactive in the Greek community. What do you like about your current age, and what do you contribute to your community?
I earn a lot to this country and to the community in general, and the Greek community. It was very difficult for me. I came to see, to help my sister that she was here, and she was pregnant, to come for a little while until she will have the babies. I meet the Greek community and the Greek people. Immediately after a few weeks, I got involved with some people that they established Pronia and also Frondida, care for the elderly. And later on, Agapi, which is for the children and the people with disabilities. My family went back to Greece. I said, no, I'm going to stay here. I love these people. They just took me like this, and they put me on radio before SBS will start. Then it was 3 Triple Z, I think, something like that. And then we worked all together to establish SBS. I worked for many years for SBS. Then they didn't like me because I was talking so open and helping the people and say whatever the government was saying about every individual, children, elderly, and whatever. the news was changing that, and the policy of the media, they just put it a little bit lower. So I was very, πώς να το πω τώρα αυτό, ότι ήμουνα πάρα πολύ, ναι, determined, yes. So after that, I got involved with the church to help the elderly people then. I got involved with someone, Mr. Avgustakis, who wasn't established with the Pronia then, but it was one of the people that was giving the news that a lot of problems are in the Greek community, and these people need help with the language, and also it was very difficult for those people that they wanted to make very quickly money to go back, and they was playing dogs and horses and all that, so it was a big problem in the family, abuse the family and all this. So I got involved very, very much, and I was helping these people that I was researching. Now I see that a lot of people, especially elderly people, they don't live as they should. They don't have the respect. Some of them from the children or the grandchildren, also from different rather government or community. So they don't speak, these people, they don't speak very open. They don't ask for help. They, especially in our community, I think that they feel ashamed to say their problems, and ashamed because they don't want their children to be shame, yeah. Anyway, the problem, yeah, συγγνώμη παιδιά, να τα πω ελληνικά καλύτερα για να τα καταλαβαίνετε, για να είναι και χρήσιμος ο Αντώνης.
Useful now, she will speak in Greek.
So that's what annoys me, that it was more helpful in the past for the elderly and for everybody who needed help. These days, rather the people that they suffer, they don't open their mouth, but also the family. The family is using the elderly people very much. And me and Andonis, we know, and a lot of people, that they are involved with their communities, and what's happening real deep down in the communities. I think it's very, very sad, because these people, they brought up children, they offer in the Australia General, and they shouldn't be on the side without anybody care about them. So I gave my life to these people, and all these years I'm just find ways from every organization to help voluntarily. I'm sorry, Adoni, we don't need you.
Thank you, I'm going.
I thought it was more difficult.
You've done exceptionally well, Raina. Thank you very much. So the next question, I'm going to ask you all to open up a little bit about yourselves personally. So today we're talking about grandparents, but I'm interested in what do you do around your own connections in your life, the people that are important to you, and what role do those people play in you being able to age well? And we'll go back across the panel again. So, Marlene.
Thanks, Jared. I'm a grandmother. I have 2 grandchildren. They are 4 years old and 18 months old. And to share something personal, I've recently, in the last few months, started to learn to play the piano, something I've wanted to do my whole life. And my goal in life at the moment is to learn to play Incy Wincy Spider, and the wheels on the bus go round and round before my grandchildren, become teenagers. If I can do that, I'll be doing well. But in terms of the connections and family, I never knew my grandparents. I'm the child of survivors of the Holocaust, and my parents came here in the 50s, and so I never knew my grandparents. And I grew up feeling that hole inside my heart my whole life. And the fact that I am now a grandmother is very, very important to me and very special to me. I don't really know how to be a grandmother because I never had that role model. So I'm learning my way, and you know, sometimes I get it wrong and have those conversations that Gerard referred to about parenting styles with my children. But it is something I enjoy and treasure very, very deeply. My family and my connections are everything to me. They sustain me, and it's within those connections and those networks that I'm not invisible. So they're very important to me.
Thanks, Marlene. Joe.
Thank you. I'm pa to 6 grandchildren. All of them live in Melbourne, here in metropolitan Melbourne. So, and as I said, I'm 245 k's away from them. So it is a very special opportunity when we do gather together. It is really important to us. I can share with you a beautiful little story about grandparenting today. We had the special privilege of attending Grandparenting Day for one of our grandchildren at one of the primary schools, which was absolutely beautiful. It was we just happened to be in Melbourne, and our daughter said to us, Mum and Dad, Charlotte is having Grandparenting Day tomorrow. Do you think you could stay on? Well, we didn't hesitate. So we went along, and it was an afternoon tea. It was a beautiful occasion. But one of the special things that happened was not every child's grandparent could be there on the day. And one of the teachers came up to us, because Mary and I were there together to represent our little granddaughter Charlotte, said, would you mind splitting up and being a grandparent for this little child whose grandparents can't make it today? That little child was just over the moon to have someone else there caring for her and fussing over her as we did, and it was so beautiful. And I guess for me it's about having those opportunities to be able to grandparent young children and share yourselves around. So if you do get that opportunity, it is a beautiful experience to be able to do that. And so we really enjoy those special opportunities when we get them. But I try and stay connected in our community, catching up with people when we can, in terms of I've set up a morning coffee. I set it up bi-monthly. My friends thought it was such a wonderful opportunity that we're now having it monthly. So we gather on a monthly basis, and it's a question of, if you're available, you turn up. If you can't make it, that's fine too. But it's really nice to be able to continue those connections, because as we change groups, as we change organisations, unless you purposefully go out there and try and keep connected, you become disconnected. So it is important to be able to share those opportunities. So I rather enjoy that.
Raina.
I am a single mother. My son is 47 now. I went through difficult times, but I didn't give up. I continue. All the hard work, hard life that I went through, I made it a help to other people. I've seen a lot of problems. I went through a lot of... So, can I give the microphone?
You're doing very well.
I've been somehow abused from a lot of people because I was single mother. I never thought that I will give up, and I never gave up. All this pain and all this thing, it came a help to other people. That's what I teach to my son. Thank God he's a good boy. I'm living alone, I don't have relatives, but the community in Australia and Victoria is my family. I'm very grateful because they gave me the opportunity to be with people, to open up to people, to help people the way I could, because I wasn't part of, I was a volunteer. I wasn't part of an organization paying. It was a volunteer. I worked very hard. Well, I haven't got anything except appreciation from Australia and the government and the Queen and everybody. But to me, that is nothing. To me, it's the respect that I have and the love that I have from people. And I'm trying very hard to say to people that they stay home and they don't want to open up and they don't want to say that they have a problem, to open up and ask for help, because we are very happy and we are very like having organization like today, for instance, you, looking after the elderly, Pronia and all these people, that they are afraid because of the way we brought up. We just, I think more Europeans have that problem. Now, the problem now is that there are problems with the elderly people, grandparents, that they can't see their children because of divorces and things like that. Other people, they just lost their work and they divorced with, between them, their children, and they're using the elderly for the money, for the house, for things like that. But the elderly don't open the mouth to ask. And there are a lot of people out there that they need the help from the government, which we are very appreciative. The government give us organizations like this and a lot of others. But unfortunately, they don't use it. All of them, they don't use it. So I want to say that I'm grateful that I'm here. I'm sorry if I just make it up a little bit. I just wanted to say a lot of things to you and to you for giving me the opportunity to be here and say that there is a lot of pain out there. There are a lot of people that the government or the association and things like that, even the communities organization, they don't know. They all are in the front, to be in the paper, to be, you know, so people have to give to other people. This is what we're here for, to look after one another, to help if we can, and really, I'm very, very grateful for being here today to say a few words. I wanted to say a lot, but I can't.
Just very briefly on this, I just want to say that I'm privileged to be teaching a lot of people who are over 80 in libraries how to use technology. And the reason I was late today is because we had 3 sessions in Oakley. And it's just beautiful to see 85-year-olds coming to the library to learn how to use a smartphone or an iPad and how to use technology and connect. And there's a lot of people, like Rena said, who didn't have this opportunity. And I think particularly with the pandemic that we've been through, this highlighted the issue that if we are not connected, it is really difficult, and people can be very disadvantaged, not just because of language, but also because of not being able to access technology to communicate. And there's a lot of people who are lonely and they live by themselves, and we find now that, you know, it just opens up a window to the world, you know. It's just this opportunity to connect, through a phone, through an iPad, wherever they are, and that helps a little bit, you know, to feel connected. One of our seniors was saying the other day, he's 85 plus, and his daughter lives in America, and his daughter orders meals with Uber Eats, and they deliver them to his door here, and from America, online, and then an hour later, whatever, the food arrives. And he was so impressed about the instant communication and connection that we can have today. We are really, really lucky. And I think this pandemic highlighted the importance of this. So people like Rena, who may not have grandchildren or big families, it's good to help people to connect in whatever way they can. Just to better their lives, and I think that's I'm just thankful that I can be part of that process, because it's really beautiful to see.
Thank you very much, Dennis. That was a lovely story. So now we get a chance to open to you. So we've got a few minutes where you can make a comment, ask a question to our wonderful panel here. I think the first one. Have we got a microphone? Have we? Or well, you don't need one.
I'm a Greek background, so I'm very loud. And the statement and the question is to you. I've grown up, obviously, Greek background, and my parents spoke about you all the time because you're on the radio. But can I just say that what you did was to give people permission to have courage to speak about certain issues, because coming from small villages, you know, there was not a lot of, everybody tried to keep things hush-hush, you know, I was much better than my neighbour and so forth, you know, no one wanted to admit to problems, okay? So I understand, you're not on the radio anymore? Because I haven't heard my mother talk about you recently.
Raina, just before you answer, I'm just going to try to a snapshot of that for people that are listening online. So it's a comment and then a question. The comment is, in the past you spent a lot of time on the radio really encouraging people and giving them permission to talk about challenges in their life. Are you still on the radio? Are you still doing that?
Once a week for Pronia, and Fridays 2 hours.
Okay. So who is giving ongoing permission to this Greek community to be able to talk about abuse for the elderly? You know, so who gives them the courage? Are you still giving courage to this community?
So the next question is, are you still giving courage to the Greek community, and are other people as well, about the right of people to speak out?
They've got me as an example that I don't shut my mouth. Don't worry. Yes, of course. Unfortunately, even the media, sometimes they don't let you open up the eyes and the ears of people. Unfortunately. This is what I was doing all these years, as you mentioned. But unfortunately now, you have to pay just to give information and things to open up the eyes and the ears of people and know what to do and where to go. And unfortunately, that's why I've got one voluntarily hour, 2 hours on Friday, and I'm just helping Pronia because I want to and they want me.
Yes, because I mean you're representing the Greek community here, which is lovely, but there's many communities that are new, are relatively new Australians. You know, the Greeks have been here for many, many years, 50, 60, 70 years, you know, so they've got a little bit more courage, I guess. But some of the new communities are not represented, and of course we don't get to see them at Seniors Rights Victoria. We don't get to hear them because of no one's speaking out for them, you know, and giving them that courage to talk about what they're struggling with.
So that was more of a comment.
Yeah.
I'll take that as a comment that for the people that are joining us online, that some of the newer communities that are coming into Australia don't have the same voice that someone like Raina has provided over time. And who is it that's out there speaking and encouraging them to have permission to raise the issues? So thank you for those very insightful comments. Anyone else got a question or a comment? Please. This is going to get Gary much fitter by the end of the day, because Gary is going to instantaneously bring the microphone back too. So please.
Thank you all. So Marlene, you gave some examples of everyday ageism that we might come across. I thought Gary was going to get the exercise.
What a great idea. Come up the front.
I wondered if you could share, perhaps everyone could share examples of internalised ageism and how that impacts our battle against ageism.
So thank you. So the question is, could we have some examples of internalised ageism and what that means, where we sort of own the ageism in ourselves, starting with Marlene?
It's such an important... Is that on? Can you hear me? It's such an important question. Thank you very much. And the reality is we have all internalised ageism. All of us have grown up with this idea of dreading getting older, hiding the fact that we're getting older, not sharing our age, particularly as a woman. And so a lot of this starts with the messages we tell ourselves. Every time I say to myself, I'm too old too. What can I expect at my age? Of course that ache or pain, of course it's an inevitable function of getting older. Maybe I should just, step aside and give the younger people a chance. They're all the sorts of internalised ageism that we've absorbed to various degrees. And I need to stop and check my own assumptions, my own script going through my head, and make sure that I actually understand the implications of what I'm saying. Because the research tells us that the more of us who hold those internalised ageist assumptions, it has impacts on our physical health, it has impacts on our mental health and our isolation, and it has impacts on our capacity to seek help. If we don't matter, if we don't think we don't matter, we're less likely to seek help, assistance or advice. So just check those things that you're telling yourself, because they're powerful messages you're sending yourselves. Thanks for the question.
From my personal experience, you do get challenged at times when you ring up for help. And in recent times, I had some challenges with my technology, and I should have called on Adonis. I think he could have helped me, and much more than the particular person that was attempting to help me. And I internalised that on the basis of I must be getting too old to really interpret this technology. I became so frustrated about it. But then I reflected on it and stepped back from it after being told by this particular person who knew and understood my problem but couldn't communicate it to me clearly enough. He gave me such instructions that really destroyed my application, and I couldn't use it anymore, which really didn't help me at the end of the day. But I was so proud of myself that I stood back away from it, and within an hour I gained my senses and took on the challenge and fixed it myself. But as Marlene has rightly said, you internalise these things and you think, it must be me. But it wasn't me. It was the fact that this person knew his subject very well but couldn't convey it for me to clearly articulate the steps that I had to take. So they are real challenges that we do face, but we just got to move with it. As far as I'm concerned, we as elders, as we age, have got a lot of experience and knowledge out there, and I think that's something that we want to be able to impart in our community and to others, that we are still important and we want to feel valued.
So in a minute, we're going to be able to close the panel. So, Raina, this is your chance to make a final comment in response to that.
I better say it in Greek and you translate it, because this is difficult. I'm going through whatever you mentioned.
Okay, that would be, yes, I will translate in English. Yes.
I personally feel exactly the same like everyone who's getting older. I'm lonely. My son is leaving now to go overseas. I went through a lot of problems by myself, feeling that I have all the people as a family, but I wasn't open up my personal problems. Τώρα γιατί τα λέω αγγλικά και μου κρατάς το μικρόφωνο. Είναι δύσκολο και καταλαβαίνω τους ανθρώπους πραγματικά που νιώθουν μόνοι τους.
So it's hard and I understand people who experience loneliness.
Τα περνάω και εγώ σε καθημερινή βάση, αλλά...
I have this lived experience myself.
Το βάζω κάτω
But
και
I don't give up.
Πραγματικά να είμαι όρθια, παρόλο που και προβλήματα υγείας έχω και η μοναξιά μου χτυπάει.
And despite the health issues and aging, I always stand in my feet and I try to stand.
Και το παιδί μου έχει μεγαλώσει και έχει ανοίξει τα φτερά του που ήταν ο στόχος μου για να μπορέσω. Και η παροικία αρχίζει σιγά σιγά, οι νεότεροι που ήρθανε δεν τους ενδιαφέρει τόσο, οι παλιότεροι με ξέρουν. Είναι πρόβλημα, αλλά πρέπει να αγωνιζόμαστε, να πιστεύουμε στον εαυτό μας και να δείχνουμε μόνο τον καλό εαυτό μας και προς τα παιδιά μας, αν τυχόν δεν θέλουν να μας βλέπουν, και να γινόμαστε πιο κατανοητοί.
So at the end of the day, it's like, don't give up, believe in yourself, do what you can with what you've got, and also that helps us support and understand each other. Yeah? And also ask for help when you need to. Can I just say very quickly, listening to you earlier, so my mom is 76 and she lives in Greece the last 30 years, and one day she sent me a text and she said, have you got Viber? And I was like, what? I didn't know what that was. Anyway, so she taught me what Viber is, and now we communicate and have video calls and chats, etc. And the flip coin is my daughter is 26, and one day I was trying to do something on Facebook and I didn't know how, and she said, don't you love old people and technology? And I said, excuse me, I said, my mother is teaching me, you are teaching me, I'm somewhere in the middle aging myself, but the moral of the story is we learn from each other and we support each other. It's not about age, you know, and we just ask, discuss, share, and that's how we all grow as a community. And fight, like Rena. Yes, thank you.
So that brings our panel to an end. What a lovely way to finish. So can you please put your hands together to thank Marlene, Joe, Raina and Adonis.
I might get you to leave the stage.
Oh.
Yeah, thanks. You take that one. And we'll... This is the last part of the forum, so I just ask you to be quiet. So this is probably, I think this is the best part because I get to do it and I've got two companions to do it with. My name's Gary Ferguson and I'm the Education Coordinator at Seniors Rights Victoria. And because we're launching today, or Jared has launched, a resource help sheet on grandparenting, we thought that we would ask two grandchildren to tell us what their grandparents mean to them, to give a different perspective of grandparenting. And so on my right is Archer, and on my left is Marla, and they're going to tell us about their grandparents in a moment. But we're going to have a few questions first for each of them. So we'll start with you, Archer. So how old are you?
I am 11.
Okay, and where do you live?
Harcourt, which is near Castlemaine.
Okay, so Archer has come down today. He's had a day off school, haven't you?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. And what do you like most about school?
Reading.
Okay, great. Now, when I ask you this next question, I don't want you to look at your grandmother or your mother, okay? I want you to look directly at me. Yeah. Are you always good at home?
No.
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 Okay, okay. All right. We'll get you to talk about your grandparents in a moment. And on my left is Marla. Hello, Marla.
Hello.
How old are you?
6.5.
Very good. And where do you live, Marla?
On Emma Avenue. In Reservoir.
Very good. And do you have any brothers or sisters?
Yes, I have one little sister.
And what's her name?
June.
And what's your favourite thing to do at school?
Learning how to speak in Spanish.
Ah, very good. So have you learned some Spanish already?
Yes.
And can you tell us a little bit of Spanish now?
Yes, I can count to 10 in Spanish.
Okay. Great, thank you. Now, don't look at your mum now, okay? Just look at me. Are you always good at home?
Not always.
Oh, you're very honest, you two. You're very honest. All right. So now they're going to tell us about their grandparents. So Marla, let's start with you. Your mum has told me that you've written something about your grandparents, haven't you?
Yes.
And is your grandparents here today?
One of them is.
So we might ask him, there he is. Yeah? Okay,
Yeah.
off you go.
Hi, my name is Marla. As you know, grandparents can be important to you because they can look after you when your mum and dad are away. On Monday, my Opa usually picks me up after school. I have 4 grandparents. They are called Nana and Opa, who live in Australia, and also Sia and Archie, who live in Sri Lanka. Sometimes we visit them. We go by aeroplane to see them. My grandparents are really special to me. Sometimes me and my sister and my cousins go to the park together with Opa. When I was little, I used to go to my Opa's house because my mum and dad were at work. When we go to Archie and Sia's house, I like to read their books because we haven't read much of them, but I have read all the books at my Nana and Opa's house. Last Saturday, me and my sister had a sleepover at their house. We made carrot cake with Nana because she loves cooking us. Goodbye.
Thank you very much, Marla. And did you share the carrot cake?
Yes.
Very good. Okay. And now we're going to hear from Archer. Yep. About your grandparents. And is any of your grandparents here today?
I have my wonderful grandma there.
Very good. And I've met her. And have you written something down as well?
I have a few reasons why, a few things I like about my grandparents. So my pa, he helps me paint my miniature Napoleonic figures, which is a hobby that me and him have. And when I was little, he used to take me on, we called them adventure walks, where we'd go up the paddock and we'd fight trolls and do things like that. And he used to teach me to wrestle on the trampoline with my brother and him. And my grandma, she always takes me out to have pasta, which is my favourite type of food. And I used to go over to her house every Thursday. And she always is happy to do school runs and pick me up from school. And she's always really kind and just listens to me when I have something to say.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Archer. All right. So hopefully this has given you a different perspective of grandparents. And to thank you for coming today and taking a day off school, we have a little bag of presents for you. So here's one for you, Archer. It's a bit heavy. Can you manage it? Will you share it? Do you have any brothers or sisters?
I have one brother.
You have one brother?
Yes.
Share it with him?
No.
No, okay. And Marla, here's one for you as well. It's heavy, you got it? And will you share that with your sister June?
Yes.
Yes, very good. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks everyone. That's the conclusion of our event today. It's gone really quickly and it's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed hearing from all of the speakers. As a little thank you to our guests, special guests for the afternoon, we've got a little gift here that I'll hand out to Gerard and Marlene, Joe, Rena, Adonis and Marla and Archer. I've already got theirs. Gary wouldn't let me give them their presents. Thank you to all of you for coming. Thank you to all the SRV staff who've contributed to the event. Couldn't have done it without you. It takes a lot to put all this together. Gary, as always, the brainchild behind this event. He wouldn't MC it because I wouldn't give him a wardrobe allowance. But also a special thank you to Gemma. Can't quite see Gemma at the moment. There she is. You're more the quiet achiever, Gemma, but we all know that you've done a huge amount of work, so thank you very much. And please don't feel you need to rush off. If you want another cuppa, want to have another chat, please do. Thanks for coming.